right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am YoungAriGold, and this morning we're going to do 3 mock drafts. We'll do 3 4-round mock drafts. And we're going to do each one differently. So the first one we're going to do is based on the fans, right? Everything I've seen on Twitter, anything I've seen on Reddit, anything that I've seen, on Facebook, amongst conversations with friends, group chats, things of that nature. So I'm going to go with the first one with what the fans want. Second one, I'm going to do what I would do if I was Nick Caserio and the Texans. And then I'm going to do one. Wait, did I already say that? Yeah. What I want to do. And then the last one's going to be what I believe the Texans will do. So we'll get into that. Also, real quick, as we get into it, it's time for the Unfuck Yourself calendar. Let's see. Yesterday was the 23rd. I usually don't do these unless I'm streaming. This kind of keeps me accountable. You might not like the view you have, but you've also become a little comfy with it. You've eked out an existence, made some friends, cobbled together a life, made this shit work. And you'll die with this perspective. It will become everything and you'll never see it unless you challenge it, which is exactly what I'm tasking you with. All right. Some challenging, thought-provoking, Unfuck Yourself calendar of 2023. Honestly, guys, if you guys haven't read the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, it's just such a great book. All right. So let's hop into it. But before we do, quick question. What do you guys think of this logo in the right corner? Would love any feedback. You guys can drop it in the comments. I'm not going to leave it there forever. But give me your thoughts on the updated logo. And if you think there's any changes that need to be made or anything else that comes with it. All right, let's hop into it because that's what you guys are here for. You guys are here for the mock drafts. So let's get into it. All right, so like I said, the first one we're going to do as based on what I've seen the fans want. What do the fans want? I knew it. Robert, damn it. I had that feeling. All right. That's a good one. Makes sense. It does kind of remind me of that too. I like the bull but I think, yeah, you're right. All right, cool. All right, so let's start. What I don't like about PFF's mock draft simulator is that there tends to not be. Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea. Maybe tacky though, but we'll see. My problem with PFF's mock draft simulator is they never have a trade happen for the Bears. And I think that there's a good chance. I wouldn't say good chance. At first, I didn't believe that anybody would trade up with the Bears to grab a quarterback. But the coaching staffs or the new coaches that were hired, I think there's a better chance of it happening now than there were before the changes that happened in some of the organizations. In the actual draft, I do believe the Colts now will likely move up based on the head coach they hired. With Shane Steichen, I think Bryce Young, and this is something that Zach Hicks, if you guys don't follow Zach Hicks on Twitter, he's been on the show multiple times. One of the things that he's highlighted is that Bryce Young is perfect for Shane Steichen's offense and what Shane Steichen wants to do. But we're in the mock draft simulator, so it's not like we can just make that happen. So what the fans want Bryce Young, and we're at 2. Bryce Young is available. We'll go with Bryce Young. So now at 12, it seems like the consensus at 12 is a playmaker, a wide receiver of some sort. The only thing I see here is not one available except for Jordan Addison at 17. I actually think Jackson Smith, that last name is just going to throw me off, but I actually think he's the best wide receiver in this draft class. And I think he has the highest upside. So I'm going to go with Jackson Smith, but I think most people would want to go with either Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers. Drop in the comments who you guys want to go with, and I'll pick that guy because you guys are the fans. I'm looking at this a little differently. Jordan Addison, a smaller wide receiver, quick, shifty, really fits what D'Amico talked about with what he wants to do on offense. Yeah, I'd trade T. Higgins for him. I'd trade the 12 for T. Higgins too. But you know what? Let's go with Jordan Addison because I think that fits what the Texans want to do on offense. So now we're at 33. Not okay. So the guard from Florida is gone. Oh wow, he went. Osiris Torrance went 24th to the Jags. Interesting. All right, so we're at 33. We already have our quarterback. We have our wide receiver. So we have our quarterback in Bryce Young, our wide receiver in Addison. I think you got to go defense here, just based on the players available. I like Will McDonald. We're gonna go with Will McDonald. It's crazy when you do this and like you're doing it on a stream instead of doing it like your way. So you guys can kind of see my thought process when I go into these mock drafts, which I think I spend way too much time doing. It's a ton of fun. This is like an adult video game. All right, 65. Okay, Andre Carter is actually still there, and so is Nathaniel Dell. Need a center. I'm gonna go Luke Weibler from Ohio State. I think he's the second best center in this draft. And the fact that he's available is pretty interesting. Could go corner. You could go edge again, or you can grab a small, shifty Nathaniel Dell. But I'm going to go center. I'm going to go Luke Weibler. They have to fix the interior of that offensive line. And I think the best place to start with that is the center. It's something that they've lacked since Chris Myers left. This gives them a guy that can solidify the offensive line. You have two bookend tackles. You have a second-year guard in Kenyon Green. A.J. Cann, towards the end of the season, started to play ball pretty well. When you're missing a center, it's hard for your rookie guard to develop. You really need that piece on the offensive line, and the Texans lacked that last year. Opportunity for them to grab their starting center. We're going to grab them. Okay, things are still kind of interesting because Nathaniel Dell is still there at 73. I haven't seen this happen yet. Could use another wide receiver. Right now, it's Nico Collins, potentially John Mechie, maybe Brandon Cooks. I mean, your whole team is small wide receivers. I don't necessarily know if that's like the best recipe for success. Brandon Cooks is what, like 5'10", 5'11". I think Mechie maybe is 6 foot, 5'11" maybe. Then we just drafted Jordan Addison, who I believe is what, maybe 6 foot, 5'11". So they're all on the smaller side. I don't know if you could take Nathaniel Dell here, but from a value perspective, it's a great pick. So we'll go with Nathaniel Dell. And then last pick of the first mock draft. We're doing 4 rounds. I like Nick Herbig. I could see them going cornerback. Linebacker is a need for sure. I just don't know if I would want to take DeMar Vion in the 4th round. I think you can probably get him a little bit later. I think I'm going to go edge again and go BPA. So Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green. That was a quick one. Four round mock draft. What I think the fans would want. Oh, they want me to sign up. No free promo, even though you're already getting it because I'm on your site. All right. So recap of the fans mock draft. 4 rounds. Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is the guy that most fans want. Celebrated college quarterback out of Alabama. Had a lot of success. Biggest questions around Bryce Young are size and arm strength. I'm probably a little more on. I think size is a concern, but I would say that the lack of arm strength is also. I would say that might rank above size for me. I don't. When you watch him have to put velocity on the ball, he has to wind up. You don't really have that much time in the NFL to be able to do that, to put the velocity needed on like outs, seams, things of that nature, corner routes. But it worked in college. people seem to think it's going to work in the NFL. I actually like Bryce Young. I know everybody just thinks I hate Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is a very talented quarterback, but I think he's a somewhat of a finished product because of his size and frame. There's not much more he's going to be able to add to his game. He's got great ball placement, but he's not going to be able to increase his velocity. He's also not going to grow overnight to potentially 6'1", 235, 220, right? And for me, that's what it boils down to. It's the biggest reason why I wouldn't want to take Bryce Young, especially at 2. Like if Bryce Young was at 12, I think I'd actually feel a little bit better. But a premium draft spot like 2, there's just something it's a big risk. And it's a big risk that really won't, like, it could pay off in the sense of maybe you're going to win the division, but I can't see Bryce Young in January winning you games. And I could be totally wrong, but that's just kind of how I view Bryce Young. Then you grab Jordan Addison, shifty playmaker when he has the ball in his hands. Nice. He's a nice wide receiver. This draft class at wide receiver, though, it's not like next year where you have Marvin Harrison Jr. and a couple others. You're kind of having to deal with who you have. Jalen Hyatt is another guy that I think likely goes in the first round, but Zay Flowers, another guy. Ohio State, Jackson Smith. Quentin Johnson, I don't know. I mean, he's definitely, when he has the ball in his hands, he's somebody you want to have the ball in his hands. He can create. He's quick. He's shifty. He's elusive. I just don't know if I would put him in the first round. Maybe a second round grade on Quentin Johnston, but a fun player to watch. Then we address the edge. We did not get to address the interior of the defensive line, so let's hope that that's something that they do in free agency. But you got an edge guy. First round grade for a lot of people on Will McDonald. You grab your starting center, which is much needed for this offensive line. All the pressure last year came from the interior. You got a steal in Nathaniel Dell in the third round. He should not be there. The fact that he was is interesting, but we'll take it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, in the draft, this happens a lot. Guys fall, and they're not always valued the way that fans see it. I can't see Nathaniel Dell being available in the third. I could see him being available early second, maybe middle of the second, but after that, he should be gone, especially after a good Senior Bowl. And then we grabbed another edge of Carl Brooks, pretty much went BPA from after the center with Nathaniel Dell and Carl Brooks. Not a terrible draft. Again, it all comes down to Bryce Young for me. A lot of people talk about quarterback purgatory, and they're like, oh, well, if you don't draft a guy, you're going to be in quarterback purgatory, just like the Colts and the Commanders, which for one, I think is just like, honestly, I think it's a very lazy take. Neither one of those teams decided to trade up or draft a guy, and both have been in a position to actually draft a guy and have chosen not to. Like they've put themselves in quarterback purgatory. It wasn't something that like they couldn't get out of. They just chose not to. The Colts decided to consistently go after guys on their last leg, and so did the Commanders. But they could have addressed the quarterback position in the draft. They just chose not to. I think that's honestly like very stupid and lazy takes, and it really makes me question like the people that bring that up if they actually understand how the league works. But it makes sense that those people would think that way. They're very much group thinkers. But with Bryce Young, it's like if you're willing to win 8, 9, maybe 10 games, potentially win the division occasionally, go to the wild card round, maybe win a game, I think you can do that with Bryce Young. I don't think you can expect Bryce Young to be the guy that puts you over the edge and gets you to the Lombardi. If you look at all the guys that are winning Super Bowls, a lot of them have strong arm, combined with the other things that Bryce Young has. Like ball placement's great. All of the things that Bryce Young does is great. But when you take away the lack of arm strength, that's actually when you combine everything, what makes you special as a quarterback. And that's probably my biggest issue. All right, so that's the first mock draft. Let's see what we got here in the comments. Jay Coop, don't think Tank Dell will be there in the third, especially because they're saying he is 4'3", 40 guy. Yeah, I agree. I don't expect him to be there. Main reason why I took him was because he was there. Robert shares the same opinions on Young. What are my take on? I love Carter. I think Carter's 1A, 1B with best defensive player in this draft, I'd probably go Will Anderson over Carter. But I don't know, man. Either way, if you walk away with one of those guys, you're in a good position. Either one's going to change your defense, and it's a good start for a defensive head coach. Addison is the reason why Smith plays in the slot, and we already got Mechie coming back. Yep, agreed. I'd trade 12 for T. Higgins and grab AR-15. We'll see what I do next. Thanks, dude. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I got to figure that out. Question from Austin Steele. If the Texans go with AR-15, do you think they should trade back so they can get him later and get extra picks? Well, let's get into that because obviously I'm not going to try to get Anthony Richardson, but if he happens to be there where I'm picking, that's likely where I'll go. But we got to see who the other players are on the board. When it comes to the draft, anything can happen. If CJ Stroud falls to 12, which he has, it'd be really hard to not take CJ Stroud, but it depends on where we're at. So let's get started. Let's get into it. So this is what I would do. Jay Coop. I'm more leaning towards taking the best player available at 12 instead of getting a wide receiver at 12 because I think the wide receiver you can get at 33. I agree. 100%. I'm not forcing a wide receiver. But that was what the fans keep talking about, pairing a wide receiver with their quarterback. They're not really looking at like what's best for the team. They're looking for like what's most entertaining. And so that's the main reason why I took a wide receiver. All right, so let's download this one. I'll tweet out the results. All right, new mock draft, 4 rounds, Texans. This is mock draft for me and what I would do if I was the Texans. So we can either go Seahawks, trade with the Seahawks for 520 and 37, which if you're looking to add talent this year, you're going to be more competitive this year, being able to add 2 additional key players. But I think this is a good draft class. It's not a great draft class. Next year, if I would do anything I could to try to grab Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not really focused too much on what players I can add additionally to my draft capital this year. So with the Raiders at 7, I'd probably go this. I don't know if I could. Honestly, I don't know if the Raiders would really be willing to give up 2 first-round picks. I don't see that being like a feasible, realistic trade. But man, if you could get 2 first-round picks, I think the one team you could get 2 first-round picks from is Carolina. They are thirsty for a quarterback. They've needed one for a while. Frank Reich just left Indianapolis where he didn't get to draft a young quarterback. They're in a position where they are likely going to do whatever they can to move up. I think this is where you can actually go in and take advantage of a team that needs to add a quarterback. And you could potentially get 2 first-round picks. But if you do that, that takes you out of the Anthony Richardson scenario. I don't see Anthony Richardson being there at 9. I think he'll probably go to Atlanta. But also you have to wonder like which draft picks are going to be best. I don't see the Raiders being good. I don't trust Josh McDaniels. I don't believe he's going to be able to right the ship in Las Vegas. They also need a ton of talent. They're not as good as people think. Yeah, they have Devontae Adams, but Max Crosby, a couple players, Darren Waller. But I mean, from a coaching perspective or from an offensive scheme perspective, like if you look at what Josh McDaniels did with Derek Carr, it was pretty bad. I don't know if a quarterback's going to change that for them. I think the Raiders' first-round picks are going to be more valuable than the Carolina Panthers. I think Frank Reich is the right guy for Carolina. I think he can right the ship. They have a great defense. They have some weapons on offense. They could potentially turn it around rather quick. Yeah, I agree, Edgar. I think Edgar makes a good move. I think we have a lot of picks, so it thinks if we think that we will trade up a few picks to consolidate or trade into the future as well, This just gives you ammunition, right? It gives you the opportunity next year to make some moves. If the Colts move up to 1, how much draft capital will they have to give up to move up? That's a great question. I would say a first and a second, probably from 4 to 1. I don't think it'll be much more than that. Maybe you can add like a fourth or fifth, but that's probably where it ends for me. All right. So looking at this, I'm going to go with the Raiders. I'll throw in a third next year to get 2 first-round picks and a second this year for the Raiders to move up to 2. Let's see if they accept. They do. So now we have an additional first-round pick next year and the year after. Jay Coop says, I wouldn't trade the number 2. Makes sense. You could get Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, right? I mean, it's really hard when you're looking at that, when you're at 2. But at the same time, if the Texans are dead set on drafting a quarterback, and that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm doing this draft, is I'm combining what I think they're going to do to what I would do if that's how they're going to do it. So if they're going to take a quarterback this year, no matter what, I'm going to go into the draft thinking that way, but doing the best I can, one, to add value, also grab the guy that I think has the highest upside. But that's my approach. So I agree. Amazing Crusader. I just have a feeling that after the combine, AR is going to impress all the quarterback needy teams so much we wouldn't be able to trade down a few spots and still get him. Might have to trade to 1 for him. This is interesting because I think the odds-on favorite right now for the number 1 pick on a couple of the betting sites is Anthony Richardson. There's been a lot of hype around him. This is a player I've been excited about for about 4 months. I think he has all the intangibles you're looking for. On top of that, he's a really good dude. So you might be right. Could he go 1? In this draft, honestly, I think anybody could go 1. I think it could be Jalen Carter. I think it could be Will Anderson. I think it could be Bryce Young. I think it could be Anthony Richardson. I think it could be CJ Stroud. I don't think there's a consensus like many people think. I think it could be really any player. But for me in this draft, this one specifically, I'm doing what I think the Texans would do, but doing it the way that I would go about it, not the way that I think they'll go about it. We'll do the next draft based on what I think Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans will do on draft day. But good call out. Good call out. It is Richardson season. It looks like that might be the case. All right, so Raiders take Bryce Young. Indianapolis takes CJ Stroud. Will Anderson to Seattle. Miles Murphy to the Lions. Will Levis on the board. Not a big fan of his game. I think he could be developed. I think in the right offense, he could be a good quarterback. Devin Witherspoon, we don't really need another cornerback. Quentin Johnston, we talked about him in the last draft. Not necessarily a big fan. Definitely not taking him at 7. Brian Branch, a good safety. Christian Gonzalez, another good corner. At this time, he's here. Anthony Richardson at 7. Now, keep in mind, we also added a second-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, and a first-round pick in 2025. Texans are poised to be able to use that. So next year, they'll have 3 first-round picks. Obviously, this is just a scenario, not a real-life situation. I wish it was. So they'll have 3 first-round picks next year and then 2 first-round picks in 2025. I think it puts the Texans in the best position to be able to really build this roster quick. And then you're swinging on Anthony Richardson, which, look, I get everything around Anthony Richardson. I totally understand the concern for AR-15 and what people are worried about. I guess ultimately what it comes down to for me is I think he has the best opportunity with the right support system and the right resources to develop into a top 10 quarterback. And in the AFC, you're going up against Mahomes in January, Herbert in January, Burrow in January, Lawrence in January, Josh Allen in January, Lamar Jackson in January. Like those are the top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're all in the AFC. You need a guy that's going to be able to compete with them. Can you have like the ultimate team and personnel and the right roster to be able to still beat those guys without a top tier quarterback? You can. But if we're being realistic, the Texans aren't in that position. And it's going to take a couple years to be able to get there. It's not like they're going to be able to build the 49ers overnight. It's going to take 4, maybe 5 seasons to get to that point. They're also going to have to draft well. They're going to have to hit in free agency. It doesn't seem realistic to expect the Texans to get to that point. So if you're going to draft a quarterback this year and they are dead set on doing that, you have to go for highest upside. You have to grab the quarterback that could potentially be that guy. I think Bryce Young is a good quarterback. I don't know. Actually, I don't believe that Bryce Young can be that guy. And that's what you're looking for. Especially if you're going to pick a quarterback at 2 and stand pat, you got to draft the best guy long term, not the best guy for the first, next 3, 4, 5 years. I think you'll end up in a Daniel Jones situation. I think he's better than Daniel Jones, but I don't think he'll ever get you over the hump. All right, so now we're at 12. This one's interesting to me. The way I look at this, I don't really care to grab a wide receiver in the first round. I'm not worried about safety. It's something that we can address in free agency. Jimmy Ward play opposite of Petrie. We could go edge with Luke Van Ness out of Iowa, or we can go Pittsburgh's Khalil. I always forget. I don't know how to mention his name, but Cansey, who's a monster in the interior, would help with this run defense. And you're kind of addressing both sides to an extent. We also now have an additional second round this year to maybe add another weapon or two. The guy that I like the most from a weapons perspective in the first round is Michael Mayer. I really like his game as a tight end. Also, Bijan Robinson, if he's there at 33, I'd take him. I can't take a running back at 12. There's no way. I also can't take a tight end at 12. I love his game. I think he would add an element. A great tight end for a rookie quarterback is a great safety net. If you have a guy you can count on being open on 3rd and 3, and he's a big target, it just makes your life easier as a quarterback. I like Michael Mayer, but I can't take him at 12. So if I'm looking at this, I want to go BPA, but my BPA does not match what PFF has their best players available. I think Cansey or Van Ness are the best players available right now. I'd go Cansey to fix the interior of the defensive line. So now we're at 33. Still have a couple opportunities here. Could go cornerback, could go edge. Obviously, we're not going to take Tanner McKee, who, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tanner McKee, see a situation where at 31, when the Chiefs are drafting, a team like Arizona, the Rams, or the Seahawks, those 3 teams trade up with the Chiefs to grab Tanner McKee so that they can have the 5th-year option with their quarterback. I like Tanner McKee's game. He's not perfect. He's more of a developmental project than Anthony Richardson, but he has nice touch. He does a lot of things right. Played in a pro-style offense. It's a risk, but trading up, maybe adding a 3rd-round pick to grab up and potentially draft a guy that you can develop. I could see those 3 teams doing that. But here, Will McDonald at Iowa State, edge, great bend, physical, quick. We need pass rush. I'm going to go Will McDonald, addressing another need for this team who lacks pass rush and has lacked pass rush for the last 3 years. All right, so now we're at our second pick in the second round, 38. We don't pick again until 65. Can we get lucky and have a center fall to us? I don't know. It's definitely a spot. It's a position on the roster that needs to be addressed, whether it be free agency or draft. But looking at this, to kind of go with what I was talking about originally, Musgrave would be a good ad. Nathaniel Dell would be a good ad. But I actually like Josh Downs more. I think Downs would be an impact player immediately. So it's between Tank Dell and Josh Downs for me. You could double down on edge. I don't necessarily know if that's the right approach. Or you could potentially trade back and grab your center. Next pick, 47, the Commanders. Dolphins, 52-77 for 38. Maybe throw in a future 5th-round pick. Okay. 52. Josh Downs and Tank Dell are both there. But the best center, second to best. Man, John Michael Schmitz and Luke Weibler, they're both really good. They're both going to address a need. They'd be a ton of fun. It'd be great to have a center. I like Weibler because of the amount of talent he went against at Ohio State compared to Minnesota. I'm going to go Luke Weibler, addressing a position of need and also protecting your rookie quarterback. So, and there we go. Everybody said last time Tank Dell's not going to be there in the third round, and it's happened twice. Tanner is the 2023 Davis Mills. Heck to the no. That's funny. Just because he went to Stanford doesn't mean he's the next Davis Mills. I wouldn't be shocked if Casey drafts Tank Dell with the 31st pick. I think he has the tools to be an ideal fit. Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, speed kills. It goes back to Anthony Richardson. All right, but Tank Dell's there now. So we don't really have a choice. We're going to go Tank Dell. All right, we grabbed a couple third rounds, which was great in the two trades. We could address edge again. I like Garrett Williams out of Syracuse. I don't know enough about Sam Laporta. Now we're getting to the point to where like I haven't really gotten this deep into a lot of these players. A lot of it's been really like the first round and quarterbacks specifically and wide receivers. But when I scroll down, I really like Jack Campbell. I don't think you can go wrong. The Texans need a linebacker. I like his game a lot. I think he'd fit well into DeMeco Ryans' defense. I think DeMeco would get the most out of him. Also addresses a position of need. I'm going Jack Campbell. Now we're back to our third pick in the third round. I love Eli Ricks. I think he'd be a great addition to this defense. Like, again, I don't know enough about Sam Laporta to know. Laporta is one of the best college tight ends we've graded in the PFF college era. In fact, his 20 broken tackles this past season were fifth most in our 9 years of grading. What's his role? Seam threat. Laporta is going to be a weapon on seams, overs, crossers, and flat routes. His speed combined with his dynamism, I've never seen that word in my life, but cool, in space is meant for such a role. What can he improve? Catch point. Laporta is not a security blanket by any means. He struggles to haul in passes outside his frame and make plays through contact. He went only 18 of 44 in contested situations over his career. Not necessarily something that I'm worried about with contested catches when it comes to a tight end. I guess if he's going to play in the seams, you're probably going to be in more contested catch positions than you would be if you weren't like a seam wide or a tight end. But at the same time, I mean, it addresses a position of need, gives your rookie quarterback another option on offense. We'll go Sam Laporta here. I'll do some research on him as soon as this draft is over, right before I get to work, because I'm intrigued by that. All right, last pick of the mock draft for what I would do if I was the Texans. Carl Brooks is still there out of Bowling Green. Tre'Davious Hodge-Tomlinson is still there. But we also need a running back to pair with Dameon Pierce, in my opinion. We addressed linebacker. We addressed interior of the defensive line with Cansey. I think I'm going to go Tank Bigsby out of Auburn to round out my 4-round mock draft based on what I would do if I was the Texans. Not necessarily what I expect to happen, but more what I would do if I was the Texans. So, all right, here we go. Sign up again. So to recap my mock draft, and again, say this one more time. My mock draft based on what I would do if I was Nick Caserio and the Houston Texans, not something that I think they will do. We're going to do what I think they will do in the next draft here after we recap what I did. All right, so my mock draft traded back from 2 to 7 with the Raiders, who are desperate to find a quarterback. Josh McDaniels is in the hot seat. I don't expect them to be very good, whether they draft a quarterback or not. I think with either at 2, you're likely to either trade with the Raiders or Panthers. But also that could change. If the Raiders grab Aaron Rodgers, there's obviously they're not going to trade up. But when we looked at the draft value and we compared what we would get from Carolina to move up from 9 to 2, it was the same package, but I believe Frank Reich gets it right in Carolina. And I think the value of those first round picks or the picks in general are going to be higher. And I would prefer to have the Raiders, who I don't believe are going to be good, and put us in a better position for 2024 and 2025. So we got 2 first round picks and a second round pick in that trade. All right. Then at pick 7, we went with Anthony Richardson. I've talked about Anthony Richardson ad nauseum. I'm not going to spend the next couple minutes talking about him. I think he has the highest upside. It's going to take a lot. You're going to have to provide a ton of resources. You're going to have to support him. You're going to have to develop him. You're going to need to make that the main priority over anything else within the team. But if you do that, I think he can be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And we've been through it. When you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC, it helps to have that guy at quarterback. Then we went to fix the interior of the defensive line. This team over the last 3 years has lacked interior pressure. They've also lacked the ability to be able to stop the run. Cansey gives you the ability to be able to do both. Then we addressed pass rush on the edge with Will McDonald out of Iowa State. Addressed the center position with Luke Weipler out of Ohio State. We traded back with the Dolphins to grab our center, and we were able to add another third-round pick. Tank Dell ended up being there in the third round, like a lot of you think, and like I think. I don't think that Tank Dell will be available in the third round, but crazier things have happened. But if he ends up having 4.3 speed at the combine, I can't see him lasting till the third round. He's also a really good route runner. Then address linebacker. It's a position of need. We have Christian Harris. I would expect Kirksey to be gone. The other linebackers on the team really haven't fit the bill. Garrett Wallow hasn't really played much. Linebacker is a position of need. Obviously, it's also going to be a position that DeMeco Ryan prioritizes because it's something that he develops really well. Jack Campbell has all the tangibles that DeMeco Ryans will look for in a linebacker. Then we went tight end with Sam Laporta from Iowa. We looked at the drafting profile on PFF. This is a player that I haven't done any research on, so it's something that I'm going to look into as soon as we end the stream today. But they said a seam tight end who's quick, can work in space, and is a yak tight end. It seems to fit what the Texans want to do on offense. And then went Tank Bigsby out of Auburn to pair with Dameon Pierce, give him a running mate in the backfield. So that's a recap of my mock draft on what I would do if I was the Texans. Now let's get into what I believe the Texans will do. Again, I wish that they could have traded the Bears pick. So here's what I think the Texans will actually do. Bryce Young is there at 2. There's a lot that goes into taking Bryce Young, and I believe it goes against everything that Nick Caserio looks for in a quarterback. But the outside noise and the outside pressure, I think, is going to get to him. I think it's going to get to DeMeco. And I do believe that Cal McNair is going to have his voice heard about the fans and exciting the city. Best way to do that is grab a quarterback at 2. Best way to do that is to grab the most celebrated college quarterback in the last 2 or 3 years with Bryce Young. Will there be size concerns? I believe there will be, but I don't think it matters to Nick. I don't think it matters to Cal. Cal is going to be all about getting the city excited. You have the new head coach. You did everything you were supposed to do. And you have to go with Bryce Young. I honestly believe that's what's going to happen. I believe that the pressure from the outside of the building is going to be is too much for them. They're going to throw a huge draft party as they do every year. But this year it's going to be a little different. The vibe in the building is going to be a little different. It'll be more packed than it's been in the past. Now with DeMeco Ryans as the head coach of the Houston Texans, I think Nick Caserio is going to go Bryce Young. Now, I think that's going to be the only fan-appeasing draft pick. I don't think that he's looking at anything else. After that, he's going to go BPA and draft the best player for based on what him and his scouting team and the coaching staff have put together on the board. Bryce Young went 2. I think he's either going to go edge or interior D line. I think he would love. I think he would love Cansey. I think he fits exactly what Nick Caserio values based on what we've seen and what he's talked about in the past. It's going to fix it's a position of need as well. Lucas Van Ness would be an interesting pick, but I don't know if that really is going to solve the problem that they have on defense. I don't think Cansey's the only one that could solve the problem, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I think Nick Caserio goes Cansey to address the interior of the offensive line or defensive line. This is where I think Nick Caserio makes a move. And it happens one way or the other. He either hops in to the first round again and looks at somebody else, maybe a Zay Flowers. I think Michael Mayer may be a guy that he's looking at. I could see him trading into the first round and grabbing another first round player, but I could also see them moving back in the second round to grab some more value, maybe potentially in the third round of this year's draft. It could kind of go either way. Lots of good players on the board. Do you double down on the defensive line and grab an edge rusher? Or do you trade back and try to grab interior offensive line? I think he understands that that's going to be a priority, but I also know that he's probably going to want to go BPA. He'll likely go BPA throughout the entire draft. It seems to be Nick's mantra when it comes to the draft. He's very good at scouting. He's done a great job over the last 3 drafts, 2 drafts, 3 drafts. Yeah. 2 drafts? I don't even remember. I think he trades back. So let's see what's available. 47. I don't think he wants to go too far. Let's see if we can get 97. Eek. That's too far back. Eagles at 62. Put you at the end of the second round. Let's try to make a deal with our old friends at the Patriots. Okay, moved back, grabbed a third round pick. Now we're at 46. Still some wide receivers available, but the center's available, and I do believe that that's going to be where he wants to go. All right, now round 3, still there. Tank Dell, got to take him. You need talent you need a wide receiver. You need to add it. Tank Dell really fits what DeMeco Ryans wants to do on offense, especially with Bobby Slowick and what we've seen from Bobby Slowick, whether it be in interviews or at PFF. Talks a lot about space. You put Tank Dell in space, he's going to create. Now we're back. We can grab a tight end, 57th ranked. Look, that was a theme last year. I do think tight end is going to be a position that they address. We'll go Sam Laporta. Now we need to find the linebacker, and there aren't a lot available. We missed out on Jack Campbell with Sam Laporta. Could go edge here. Adebo War. I'm not like a scout, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh my God, I know these guys really well. I don't know these guys amazingly. Like, I think anybody that I just don't spend that much time watching the tape like everybody else. I'll go based off of some of the things I read or see, or where I'm seeing players taken. But Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green. Brooks has the kind of movement skills that test the lineman's athleticism right from the snap, as he can create havoc on a quick slant or stunt. He combines with that with lively hands to make sure he keeps his body clean. Brooks has the prototypical 3 technique traits due to his ability to get into opponents' backfields. He lacks the bulk to play the nose and the length to stay on the outside. Brooks has to get stronger to hold up to double teams at the next level. It's less of an issue at 3 technique, but he'll be targeted early in his career if he doesn't improve. Overshawn is a beast. All right. Where's he at? It seems to be a bit of a reach, though, huh? 82, though? We'll take it. There we go. We addressed the linebacker. All right. Brooks is still there at 48. I would still go with running back. I'm not going to sit here again and say, like, oh, yeah, Tank Bigsby, he's the guy. He's so great at this. I don't know. Bigsby, dead leg in the open field is a killer. It's tried and true move at the NFL level that Bigsby deploys better than any back in this class. Bigsby possesses the kind of size and athletic skill set to execute whatever is asked of him at running back. Bigsby is a dynamo with clean, defined reads, but he can get bogged down and hit non-existent holes when his blocking is shaky. It's not the worst problem to have, but it has led to some no-shows. All right, so we're gonna go with Bigsby. We need to address the tight or the running back position, anyways. I don't expect them to do that the in free agency. Paying a running back doesn't seem to be Nick Caserio's way of life. So here we go. This is what I believe the Texans will do. I believe they'll go Bryce Young. Maybe it won't be Cansey. Maybe it'll be another defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. I do believe that they're going to try to address the center position. You need to grab a young guy. Tank Dell was there in the third round. Sam Laporta, the tight end that I actually want to do a lot of research on, watch some film. DeMarvion Overshown from Texas, obviously a Texas guy. Everybody loves UT. And then Tank Bigsby at running back. That's what I believe Nick Caserio will do. It may not be the players, but I think it's more of a positional approach that I took that I think Nick Caserio takes. I do believe that all of these positions are going to be priorities for Nick Caserio. Again, I don't think it's going to be specifically guys. I do believe Bryce Young will be the guy at 2 if he's there. But outside of that, I think these are the positions they're looking to address. So drop your comments in. Let's see your thoughts on all 3 mock drafts. It was a ton of fun. Appreciate you guys joining in. It took a lot of time, but it was a fun thing to do. Maybe we'll do this more often. If you guys like doing this, let me know, and we could do it maybe once a week. Maybe this is how we'll lead up to the draft. We'll do once a week. We'll do 3 mock drafts, see how things are going, especially with the combine next week. I would expect a lot of this to change. A lot of the boards change with some of these websites, but if you guys are in the comments and you guys are watching and viewing, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Brown should have been the pick at 76. Awesome special teams guy and versatile safety that can play both 1 high and 2 high and move to the slot. I mean, I get that, but I still think that, like, I think when I look at this, I'm looking at the positional needs more than anything. And this is how I see them viewing a lot of the positions. So, love mock drafts. So keep doing them, please. Also, do you think JMS might go first round? Jackson, JMS. Who the hell is JMS? Are you talking about Jackson Smith? I have no idea who JMS is. Anyways, I don't know. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Again, like and subscribe. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the videos, subscribe to me, tell a friend to tell a friend. That means a lot. And I do appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Follow me on Twitter at YoungAri_gold. And I will catch you guys Monday with Brandon Scott.